I think that's really like just where the card market is kind of moving. More of those people just kind of want to have the card right now and see how they play.
Welcome back, everyone, to the SlabStox FC show. My name is Aaron, your host. Today, I am joined by Cole. Cole, thanks so much for joining me. Really happy to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. And we're just going to go through and talk about Cole's journey through soccer cards, some successes he's had, maybe some failures and his favorite sets, and we'll see what we can learn from this because we're always looking to teach new things to new people coming into the soccer card market or looking to over the next year or however long. So, Cole, how did you get involved in soccer cards to start? What was your big start in it, or even cards in general? Because I think you said you transitioned into soccer cards.
Yeah, so my whole family has really been into cards. So I actually had a great aunt who's got some like vintage cards that she first gave me from the 60s, and she gave me like a 62 Topps Mickey Mantle, and that kind of got me started, and I really got into it, especially when I was kind of around the age of like 10 or 12 when baseball card shows were really popular. I know it's kind of hard now with COVID for those to be as big as they were, but
Yeah.
I just remember growing up going up to Cleveland from here in Columbus where I'm at and going to the card shows, and then that was mostly baseball cards back then because it's really all I was given by my family members and things like that. So later, I got into soccer around 2015. I started playing FIFA like a lot of other people. Um, I also, had season tickets to the Columbus Crew, which is right near me, and I
Yeah.
think from there that kind of just grew from there for sure. Like just getting more into soccer cards, and right now I kind of have a mix. I'm into basketball, baseball, and soccer, but I think soccer right now is almost like the easiest if like for those people that are looking for like the short flip or some to get in with like not very much investment. I think there's a lot of options in that aspect.
Yeah, that's funny that you're from Columbus and go to Columbus Crew games because Tyler Treadway, one of our past features here on Slabstox FC, he actually has season tickets as well and goes to
Oh, really?
Columbus Crew games. So that's funny that I have a second person now that does that. Do you go to Card Collector 2 shop at all since you're from Columbus?
No, so I've been trying to get over there. Like I've been telling like me and all my I'm getting my friends into cards too, and I think a lot of like people my age, like kind of college age, are jumping back into it just for something to kind of have fun with. I have buddies who kind of just gamble on it. They literally will, just buy a player. And there's plenty of people like that, but I'm not that person,
Hmm.
I'm gonna buy a card that like for me, I think it's buying cards that you like and finding a balance between like is it a good investment and like, do you actually like the card? Do you actually enjoy it?
You want to collect while also trying to invest. You don't, well, even not even just straight collecting, but just, being involved in what you enjoy is the most important thing with cards is you gotta be able to sustain that. You have to be able to sustain it
Right.
going forward.
Right. And like those windows of kind of like if you want to get into flipping them, the amount of knowledge that you need to acquire, that's hours and hours of research to find that right time to sell. Like I know with Serge Gnabry, I don't know if you know him for Bayern Munich. I'm sure you
Yeah.
know who he is. I've seen your posts about him, but
Yeah.
so like him going into the Champions League final, I had a autographed numbered card of his, and I noticed that it was going up and up in value as they kept progressing to the Champions League, obviously. And right at the final, he kind of hit his peak, and I sold it off. I was just like, it's too big of an investment for me. Going to move on to smaller stuff. And I since then, you see like the UEFA or not the UEFA, the museum collection that came out, and
Mhm.
those are really the only Nabry cards that are selling now. It's like 60, $70 when those tops like how am I blanking on the name? Those the
Which
tops
one?
now. The tops now. The
Yes.
tops now. Yeah, so
There you go.
the tops now are selling for like $150 or whatever, and now nobody wants those because the museum collection is the big new thing, and that's what's hot, and you can get it for less too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So when you're talking selling strategy in soccer, have you been doing a lot of like, let me figure out how much profit I've made and sell there and then reinvest it? Are you doing long-term stuff, short-term stuff, both of it?
I think it's good to like diversify. Like obviously, I bought into like vintage soccer. I bought into, a lot of recent soccer. Right now, I've kind of like sold everything off because originally I got into it just for a side hustle with college and also just something to do in COVID. I really enjoy cards, and I think that it's fun to like, buy cards you like and, flip them and then maybe save up for a card that you really want, like uh, 60, like, 58 Pele or something in a super low grade that's like $500 now. Those are
Yeah.
insane. Those, I mean, the price increases on the vintage stuff is what's really kind of surprised me over the past few
Mhm.
months. I think like I think a lot of the old tobacco cards are starting to get, like start to pick up more, and I really kind of like where those are going personally.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What are the some of your favorite sets? Like when you were first starting investing in soccer, where did you start with sets you were looking at, and how did you expand that when you saw the market grow? Because so many times, and it happens in Pokemon too. I'm not going to sit here and talk about that, but people go into a set that everyone's talking about, everyone's investing in, and that's really when you want to be looking for all the other sets because that's where the untapped potential is.
Right. I that's a I actually have a funny story about that one. I know just a few months ago, probably around 3 months ago, everyone was kind of hating on the Premier League Prism set, the first one that had came out, and
Yep.
I completely understand it. Like I totally get it. There's not a whole lot of like crazy high potential rookies in there other than like a Pulisic or someone like
Hmm.
that. But I had bought like I want to say a 200 card lot for like $90, and I was just looking to flip a few. I'm like, this will be exciting, and my kind of thought process with it was this was before Premier League was starting. A lot of the COVID restrictions were kind of keeping people off the field, and I figured I'll just buy in because I had been seeing everything that's going on in cards and just thought it was so interesting. And I about a month into Premier League, these guys start scoring and they start creating some attention, and it was like people, hit me up one week for like a Heung-min Son for Spurs, and then next week wanting Paul Pogba because they had that one good game, and you could kind of
Hmm.
sell it right at the hype of right after that game where they just scored the hat trick and everybody's really up on them.
Yeah, I think that's funny and a good point because so many people out there, so many of the naysayers for the soccer card market are really like, oh, no one watches soccer that buys soccer cards. But honestly, I've been seeing over the last month or weekend, 2 weeks to a month, that more and more people that actually watch soccer are now buying and selling them based off of how the games are going. Back at
Right.
the end of the summer, we saw so much of let me just get into the bigger guys and the young rookie investments that are really well known. But now it's so much like what's going on actually in the performance and in the market.
Right. And I got in with like a super low budget too. So I think like kind of finding those like slept on sets, maybe not even slept on, but just the less popular ones and trying to just see which cards could maybe see a jump in the future based on a performance or, a tournament. I know you say like a lot of these cards, are kind of almost going to reach their height at like the Euros or the World Cup. And I think like looking like in the far future, those are the things you should look towards investing in. And like
Mhm.
now I found the most successful thing is kind of just finding those little flips that you can make to save up for those bigger cards.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that strategy because so many people out there don't really have, that huge budget to go and drop on, a couple of silver Mbappes or something crazy like
Right.
that. But, everyone can get in at that lower level. And that's what we're seeing now with so many I think like at least well-known players in the soccer card market. You just go and find those sets that maybe aren't the biggest ones and snag a couple of those guys for $5 to $10 and sit on them and see what happens. Do you do any grading with this stuff?
So I just sent off my first ever PSA order not too long ago, but it's mostly just for baseball cards. I have like a few John Morants and things like that that I just threw in there. But for the most part, I just kind of buy and flip raw for that's kind of what's been working for me the past month or two. I originally got into it again around 4 months ago, so I had a lot of previous knowledge. I kind of knew what I was doing when I got into it, but I didn't quite recognize, I guess, how much different the market is than it was, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It was a lot more. I mean,
Mhm.
it's a lot crazier now and hard to work around for sure.
Yeah, there's just so many different factors going on, and you really got
Yeah.
to be on top of your game. Otherwise, you might, miss a step. And that's really interesting that you're only doing raw flipping, which is nice to hear someone have success with that. Because I think, myself included, and here at SlabStox, we talk so much about the grading aspect and how important it is. But it's also nice to hear stories of people that can just flip raw cards, keep their expenses low, get those cards in and sell them, within the time of playing and everything. Have you seen injuries or COVID absentees in soccer affect your portfolio or what you're doing buying and selling? Because I feel like in the last
Um,
2 weeks, most of the buzz around soccer has been around industry or injuries and people missing time.
Yeah, actually, it's helped a few of my cards in a certain sense. Like you have like I invest a lot in obviously cards I like. How I was saying, I think people should invest in cards that they like, and that even if the whole market were to tank, you should still enjoy the cards that you have. You
Yeah,
shouldn't be left with
100%.
what you feel is nothing. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Bayern Munich fan. I've been to their stadium before. I've traveled to Germany, so I have a huge connection to them, and I also love Arsenal. So with them at least, I bought a lot of Lucas Hernandez cards for Bayern just because they were super low budget. They were like $1 a piece, and I bought like 20 of them. And Alphonso Davies gets injured, and now you see Lucas Hernandez getting more time. And his cards haven't seen a huge increase or anything, but it's definitely been at least a couple bucks here and a couple bucks there for like the silver refractors and things like that, just because he's getting more playing time. So I think it's weird to see like some of the almost like the micro adjustments the market makes when just something as little as an injury happens.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Definitely agree with that. How do you determine you're buying like by league? Are there some leagues that you completely discount? Do you kind of just focus on Champions League players? Do you look at other factors? Like what is it with the leagues? Because it's so different than like NBA and NFL, of course.
Yeah, I like to focus on what I know. So like obviously I was kind of on the whole baseball thing when I was younger. And with soccer at least, I'm kind of looking at like Premier League. Premier League is huge. I've kind of noticed that some of my friends and people around me, they're more into the Premier League because it's more televised and
Hmm.
it gets to more of an audience. So I like sticking to things like Premier League, but I also will move outside kind of that realm. I like the Bayern Munich type teams, the big Champions League teams. I think there's a ton of potential in the future for a lot of the just nationality cards for like for the World Cup, especially. I mean, especially when it's going to be in America too. I mean, there's going to be a lot of buzz around that for sure.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy for sure. Have you done any US men's national team investing at all?
Just a little bit of like Weston McKinney, nothing crazy. I kind of bought into the hype on that one. Like we all make mistakes here and there for sure.
Yeah.
I know on a lot of my basketball card investments, they haven't all panned out. Like I know like I really liked the Shaq rookie cards, so I bought a couple
Hmm.
extra to see, maybe this card will go up here and there. And that card might, go up crazy in the future. Who knows? But for the moment, he's kind of sat low since then, and that all happens when you're buying and trying to flip cards, and buying multiples of something. You definitely not
Yeah.
always win.
If anyone's 100% on your investments, like 100% of the ones you're right on, I want to
Yeah.
meet you because I've never,
Right.
everyone makes mistakes. It doesn't matter who you are. And
Yeah.
actually, funny enough, Ryan Card Collector 2, the shop I was talking about earlier, he just
Hmm.
posted something on Instagram today about buying Nathan Peterman right before he like threw that 5 interception game back like 2 or 3 years ago. And he was saying like he loaded up huge, like super ready to see what he does. And that's, of
Right.
course, a failed investment. 95% of the value is lost or more in that one from that
Yeah.
time until now. So even some of the biggest people out there make mistakes. I've made my fair share of mistakes too. Even
Yeah.
recently, even with buying some Pokemon stuff that I didn't do my due diligence on in condition or whatever. And there's just so many mistakes that can be made, but that's so important that you learn from those mistakes too. So
Right.
speaking about failures, how do you take maybe the cards that you fail on? Like, let's say that a card that you have lost 50% of the value from the time you bought it until now. What's your
Hmm.
game plan with that? How do you have an action plan? Because I think that's so much that you need to do when you see those things is not to like, oh, let me forget about that, but let me actually like make a plan so I can either reinvest it or hold it for the long term.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good question because I've been trying to move more and more out of like the quick flip kind of stuff. And that's why I really like vintage right now, because it's more like, there's so much less of it out there. You can't get that. I just bought like a 1938 Wyatt and Churchman and like a PSA 9, and he's not the most known player, but there's only, a select few of those cards out there. And, he plays for Manchester City, which is a big club. And, just certain things I look for on like the super vintage stuff. I think just trying to find something that's a little bit more like stable if you're trying to like keep your money. But when you get into it, I feel like you should expect your cards to take half value, because, you just need to be able to handle that loss. Like I know there's a lot of cards I have that are half value as they were right now, but I'm just gonna hold on to them, see where they go. I think that's the biggest thing, is kind of
Yeah,
just,
definitely not get down on yourself and
yeah,
keep
definitely.
going, keep learning, keep investing, keep finding new ways that you can get into things. And that's a super old card that he bought in 1939. Sheesh, that's so
Yeah,
old.
yeah. So it's a 38 wide, and actually I can grab it right here.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, so it's a PSA 9. You've definitely never heard of Peter Doherty, but he's a Manchester City player. He won their first FA Cup, kind of like led them. So I think like a lot of the cool stuff to do is kind of research the old vintage stuff. Like I know that there's a ton of potential. Like if you look at the game like FIFA, a lot of the like icons or legend cards on there create a ton of buzz. And like even if a really old legend were to be brought onto that game, like I know Lev Yashin was put into the game a few years ago. Like players like him, it gives them more of a name globally, and definitely can bring up more potential value and things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's so important because I think that there's such an untapped side of it between FIFA and card market. I mean, there's so much crossover there that's just one's digital and you play a video game, one you invest and can sell them. Like, you said
Right.
you were big into FIFA starting like 5 years ago is when you started getting into FIFA. How do you see that crossover playing on in the future? Do you ever see there being some type of correlation between what the FIFA market's doing and what the card market's doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything's moving more digital, obviously. I mean, I'm sure COVID plays a part in that for the card market at least, but I think that we've seen, people like you be able to create something out of that, and make something where people can kind of just not have to go to their local card shop, or maybe not even have to go to the meetups or things like that, and be able to kind of just track the market at home and use tools that people have created with different technology to kind of help them. And I think that like moving forward, like there's plenty of people and that I think would be more than interested in jumping from, FIFA cards to real cards when they're older, and they don't have, they want something more material and that's going to hold value. Because I see people dump hundreds of dollars into the game, when they could be,
Yeah.
putting a couple $100 into cards, and, at least having something in their hand to value.
Yeah, and even like future value past a year of playing the game until you get the new one, pay another 60 to $70 to get the new game, and then more money into the game that you're not going to get back out ever. So I can definitely see if there was some type of way to easily enlighten or bring knowledge to or information to those people, I'm sure it could get crazy really fast, or at least a lot of people interested who actually have interest in the sport, the players and how they're performing and the games, which is really important in my mind. Is that something you see important too, is building on the future for soccer is through the European connection, and even people in America, they actually really follow the sport and want to get involved in players that they watch on TV, because that's such a big thing for myself with basketball cards. If I were to collect some basketball cards, I want to watch that guy. I want to cheer him on as he's
Exactly.
playing.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a huge potential for that. Like, I mean, I think that's really like just where the card market is kind of moving. More of those people just kind of want to have the card right now and see how they play. And I mean, like, you definitely see that where you can go and buy, 100-year-old card for the same price as, a card that just came out this year that
Right.
has five other versions. And
Hmm.
I think that's kind of where my interest has moved, is like I really do like the new flashy things, but I think you really can't go wrong investment wise with something that's older, more rare, and overall just kind of has more popularity in the long run. Like I know a lot of the people in the soccer chat all like to go talk vintage and things like that. So
Yeah, and really important is for yourself when you're talking about flipping raw cards is using your flipping successes to fund those longer term buys. And I'm sure that's what you're doing over there with picking up
Yeah,
some of those vintage ones. You're using that newer stuff to accelerate your older stuff, long term investments. Really, really cool. Nice job.
yeah, yeah. I think that's just kind of what I'm having fun with at the moment. Just kind of seeing how far I can get to with the flipping. See if I can maybe get a Messi RPA or something like that, like something ridiculous. Like I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, that's how you do it. That's how I was able to do it too. And it's really a blast. And I appreciate you joining the show. Is there anything you want to leave for new soccer buyers or people looking to get into soccer they can use in their daily soccer buying and selling?
I think just start low. Don't put too much money into it, and just kind of test the waters. Just kind of figure things out for a while. The best way to kind of figure it out is learn from the wins and the losses. So that's probably what I'd
Yeah,
say.
100%. Thank you so much, Cole, for joining the SlabStox FC show. I was really excited to have you. Really glad that we could get this word out there about buying on a budget because we don't want people to have to think that they gotta dump their savings into soccer cards, but we want people to build up and grow long term with us. So thank you so much for joining, Cole.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yep, for sure. We will see you guys next time on the SlabStox FC show. Thank you all for joining. See you next time.